Alright guys, so here we are again, Flex Lewis Classic weekend, 14 weeks out. Yes, I'm a little bit fluffy in this video. You can just skip the smart ass comments. Anyways, you're going to see some stuff in this video you've probably never seen before, a little bit different training techniques. So that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Matt and let him just kind of walk you guys through it since he's the mind behind all this.
I want to first off start by saying that this was Dallas and I's first time actually getting to train together. So it was an honor to be able to train with him, just as somebody that's been a friend of his, to kind of finally meet and train and just get after it together. That was a blessing. What you're seeing here is, this is something I do not want to take credit for. This is just my application of training principles that I've really researched and developed, not researched because I'm passionate about training. I'm passionate about advancing within training. And within what Dallas is doing and the amount of time that he had coming off of his win from the Cal show into the Olympia, I wanted to help him maximize each training session. I wanted to help him maximize through increasing his frequency, through increasing true training intensity, what true training intensity and effort means. And that doesn't mean just, training until you can't move. It means training and advancing from one training session to the next, maximizing each training session. So, I mapped out his training. I blocked out his training from the time that we started, leading all the way up into the Olympia. And I said, we have this many days. I want to get this many workouts in. I want to train your weak body parts, your back this many times. I want to train your quads this many times. And this is how we're going to do it. So this is a combination of a lot of the DC principles that were made famous and brought to us by Dante Trudell. I've also had some great influences from Leo Costa. I did his programming was one of the first programs that I did, and this was back in 8th grade, so I was not nearly as advanced for it as what I thought, and it absolutely buried me, but I learned a lot through it, and I learned how to train properly at an early age, even though it was way beyond what I was doing. Scott Stevenson is somebody else, so I'm trying to take what I've learned and apply it, using my experience, using my passion, using what I've noticed in the gym from a biomechanics standpoint, and use these types of principles. So it's low volume within what he's doing, and he's not doing set after set, pyramiding up in weight, traditional doing sets of 8 to 10. What we're doing here is we're doing low acclamation sets. So the goal is to find a weight that we can push for a maximum number of reps, whether that be 8 reps, whether that be 12 reps, whether that be 20 reps, and make the most out of each individual set, because we don't have that many sets for that day, because we're wanting to keep the frequency high, and we're wanting to train not for that day, but the day that follows and the day that follows that, and continue to put the working muscle, under tension, make progress over a long period of time. So what you're seeing, even just right here within this, is that this was the one working set that he had. So if you're going into the gym with the mindset of, I got one set to make myself better, it's really going to drive you within that set to maximize it. You don't have 4 sets. You don't have 5 sets. It's one set. Let's get the most that we possibly can out of that set, and then let's move on. We're utilizing a few different techniques within this. Eccentric component of an exercise is where the greatest amount of stress and breakdown occurs. So that's something I always like to emphasize within training, and not just like letting the weight fall, but actually feeling the weight through the muscle that you're working. So that's one thing, is the eccentric component of the exercise. A few other variables that we're taking into play is we're utilizing rest pause. We're utilizing slow eccentric, like extremely slow eccentric contractions. We're utilizing isometric contractions. So just really trying to stimulate muscle fibers within the minimum amount of work that we can do in terms of overall volume, because we want to get into the gym and essentially maximize what we're doing and then get out and recover. So that was the goal within what we're doing here. So a chest day, for example, a standard chest day for Dallas in the past might have been 20 working sets, for 12 to 15 reps. Well, here he's doing 4 working sets or 5 working sets total, and he's warming up to those sets by figuring out the weight that he wants to use somewhere in the 4 to 6 rep range, which is allowing him to say, okay, at this working weight is when I'm truly going to be ready. But those warm-ups, we're also not trying to overly exhaust him. So it's warming up just to prime the muscle and then get to the actual weight that you need to make the most out of that set. So that's how we're approaching each thing. And then we're also, want to go into the gym every day and have fun, and do that in a variety of ways. So within this training, it gives you so much purpose because you're going in there to beat yourself every day, and you're going in there to essentially be better than the day before. And not only that, but one thing that Dallas and I are really passionate about within a contest prep is not becoming a slave to the gym, not having training become this thing that you dread, and having these strength-related goals is something that keeps you driven. You're going to the gym with specific goals in mind, and within that, exercise selection is remaining consistent. So throughout this video series that we're doing, you're going to see pretty consistent movements being performed throughout the entire Olympia prep. And the reason being is that we want to continue to be able to advance within those movements, make progress within those movements, monitor progress within those movements, because there could come a point where, instead of making progress, he's actually going in the reverse direction. Well, if we're constantly changing exercises, if we're constantly changing exercise selection, then we're not going to know if he's truly making progress or not within that movement, because it's more than just, to us, it's more than just a physique. It's being able to train like an athlete. It's being able to keep performance-related goals intact and not just going to the gym with the goal of, I'm going to see how tired I can get and then leave, and then I'm going to try to do it again next day. There's nervous system stimulation that goes into play there. There's just overall fatigue. You're going into the gym without really a set purpose. So that's all the different kind of components that we're applying here. Right here, you're seeing with throughout every training session, we are utilizing some type of force stretching to really kind of cap off the training, that muscle group for the day. And the reason for this being is it does a few things. You're going to, one thing that happens to a lot of bodybuilders is that they get extremely tight. And one of the first things that Dallas, told me once we implemented this was that he just felt so much better in terms of his muscle tightness, in terms of his recovery, in terms of just how he felt going to the gym. He wasn't just feeling like, joints weren't overly fatigued. He just felt fresher, things of that nature. So you're putting maximum, you're putting a maximum amount of stress in an isometric phase. You're loading the muscle that's already primed, that's already warmed up. We're not doing this when we're cold because that's dangerous, but it's putting that primed muscle in a stretched position for a long period of time, which really just kind of pushes and leaves any remaining blood there. To kind of really stretch that muscle out anywhere from 45 to 60 seconds, and then we move on to the next muscle group. So again, within going back to the fun component of this and maximizing each set, what you're seeing Dallas do here is after shoulders, we moved on to lateral raises, and it truly is one working set. Give it all you got. And we're also doing a drop set, so it's not like we're just monotonous in what we're doing. We're having fun. We're utilizing different training techniques, but he's going full range of motion for as many reps as he can, and then he's going partial range of motion for as many reps as he can, and then after that we're doing a drop. But throughout each of those, still emphasizing the eccentric phase, still lowering through the muscle, not just saying, hey, I'm going to get 100 reps, however I can get them, ready, set, go. Keeping the training variables intact, and then utilizing somewhat of a really, really slow eccentric at the end, and then again, somewhat of a ballistic movement to finish off. So working different phases of not only muscle fiber types due through speed, which is important, controlling the rep, and then driving. So things of that nature. Really explosive concentric, which is the contraction portion of the rep. And an explosive concentric does not always need to mean fast, okay? You want to be moving the weight fast in your mind, but the speed of the weight and the speed on the barbell is going to be indicative of the weight being used. So even though the weight might be moving slow, if you have the intent to move that weight quickly, it's going to, maximize, and it's going to recruit the maximum amount of muscle fibers within that muscle to actually move the weight. So that's another goal within what we're doing, is to really take each phase of each rep captive, trying to be as explosive as possible under control, trying to control the eccentric as much as possible. And then obviously within that, there's an isometric component, not only to an isometric contraction, but then an isometric stretch to finish up each training day. So hopefully that gives you guys some insight as to what we're doing here, and not just that we're just trying to go crazy, but the volume is low. These are true working sets, and that was it for the day in terms of total volume.